I'm filming this on total short notice. This is the earliest I've ever filmed a video for YouTube. This is the quickest I've ever set up. So the lighting might not be good, or the camera might be positioned right, or something like that, but I just wanted to get this out immediately. Out of nowhere, I go on my Twitter feed, and now every morning I just went on my Twitter feed and I saw the Nintendo News posted that Nintendo's announced a new the Nintendo DS successor called the Nintendo 3DS. Now, it seems probably really random and out of nowhere if you weren't following Nintendo back in 2004, but this is exactly how the first Nintendo DS was announced. Just one day we woke up and there was a press release all over the net saying Nintendo's announced a new system called Nintendo DS that'll have 2 screens. Wait for more at E3 in May, back when it was in May. And we're all just like, what? And they'd said not a word else until May 2004 when they showed the system itself. Now, this isn't as much of a surprise because we've had some lead into this. A couple of months ago, Satoru Iwata, the president of Nintendo, was doing some kind of interview with some Japanese game magazine, and he said something about the next Nintendo DS will have equipment to track the player's face. And then Nintendo made like some statement that Iwata's statement has been misinterpreted, and he said nothing about the Nintendo system because I guess he probably spoke too freely than he was ready to announce. And recently there's been a Nintendo DSi downloadable game in Japan. It's sort of like a find the hidden stuff sort of game, like in Highlights where you look through a picture and find certain things that are hidden in a scene. And what it does is it actually tracks the camera on the DSi tracks the player's face, and to make 3D effects in the screen by relating the screen to where the player's face is in relation to the system. And the new Nintendo 3DS is supposed to have 3D capabilities, so it's interesting. How is that going to be the 3D on that? If that's the case, then why not do it with the current system? I think whatever 3D is this new system's going to have, it's going to be more complex than what we've seen with the DSi. And a lot of people are going to be upset. I don't know why. They should be used to this by now, being gamers and being into electronics, that whenever something comes out, it's going to be obsolete fairly quickly with something new and better. And I was just showing my mom yesterday the Nintendo DSi XL that isn't even out yet, I don't think. It says, pre-order now. And I was telling Mom, this new DSi is going to be out, and DSi XL, and there's going to be a new system probably announced at E3 that's going to succeed it. And the very next day, wouldn't you know it, they announced the Nintendo 3DS. Now, supposedly we know that it's going to be backwards compatible with all the other games. I'm going to be really bold. I'm going to predict that it's going to have bundled broadband wireless built in, kind of like the Kindle, where you buy it and it's going to have wireless for downloading and for gaming just built in as part of the cost of the system. I've read something recently about Iwata making some comments about that, investigating that sort of thing, and I've even heard that they've actually launched some kind of satellite into space. And they didn't make a press release about it, but they've paid apparently to have some kind of satellite that they own in space up now. So maybe this has something to do with that. And I think Nintendo DSi remember the Game Boy Color? That was barely out for a year before the Gameboy Advance was announced, and that was actually released to ease the public into the idea of a more advanced Game Boy. Because before the Game Boy Color, the only Game Boy that had out is the one that's been out since the late '80s. And I think the DSi is the same thing. It's sort of easing the public into the idea of downloadable games and cameras on their systems and web and more internet connectivity. And I think Nintendo was sort of wanted to ease themselves into that idea too, to see how the public responds to that and to get their system in place so that when they do something with the new Nintendo 3DS, I think it's going to be a lot more connected online. I think we might even see something akin to the PSP Go and the PSP right now, where a lot of the games are downloadable and at retail. And I really hope it's like that, because we're giving you the option to own the game physically, but it makes the system so much more portable. And Nintendo knows now that they've got competition with the iPod Touch and the iPhone, and it's getting past the point where everyone's going to be willing to carry around a bunch of cartridges to carry multiple games with them. So I think it's going to be a lot more connected to the internet and a lot more download centric, but at knowing Nintendo, they're still probably going to offer, you know, the games on physical, like flash media. What else do I have to touch on? The graphics, I've heard there have been reports at Game Developer Conference that the screens on the new Nintendo DS will be almost so that you could use them as one big display, and that the graphics will be comparable to Nintendo GameCube, which will make it give it a considerable boost over the PSP, and actually nearly put it on par with Nintendo's home console Wii, which is really going to be the first time that there's a noticeable step between the Wii and the GameCube. Not as big as with, you know, the PS3 and the PS2, obviously, but it's going to be one of the first times that a home system has been comparable in visuals to a portable system in the same generation. And I pretty much touched on everything that's known and everything I have to say. But this year's E3 2010, with, let's see, it's halfway through a console's the current home system lifespan. The Nintendo announces a new portable, you know, a couple months in advance, with new features that have never really been seen on a portable in this way before. And it's at the same time they're going to announce a new Zelda game. A new home console Zelda game that's highly anticipated. With all those elements in place, it's going to be just like Nintendo's E3 2004, and that was really one of my favorite E3s in general, not just for Nintendo, but in general, of my whole life. And E304 is really, for Nintendo, is really parallel in a lot of ways to what E3 2010 is going to be, and it's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait to see it. So thanks for checking out my opinion on this new Nintendo system, and you know, I'm gonna maybe have a couple of links. Obviously, there's gonna be the news about this is gonna be everywhere, and I'm not really a news source. I'm just stating my opinion on this, and I'm very interested, and I'm very glad I wisely held off on the Nintendo DSi, because I figured it was going to be a stopgap system for something like this, for the true successor. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, the name. I was predicting several names. Nintendo DS Plus, based on, you know, they have what, Wii Sports Plus, so they have that Plus thing. Nintendo DS2. Nintendo's never named a system 2 before, so I didn't think that was very likely. One thing I was thinking that would have been cool was Super Nintendo DS, harkening back to, you know, Nintendo Entertainment System to Super Nintendo Entertainment System. But Nintendo 3DS, interesting name. Just 3DS itself, it sounds almost kind of like a cell phone model or something very technical sounding. You know, not so much sounding necessarily like a game. But that's my opinion on this. I'll probably make a little mini feature on my site predicting what this new system will be like and what we'll see at this year's E3. So it's the wait for E3 2010 is getting harder and harder, and it's going to be hard to wait. But thank you very much for watching my opinions on this new announcement that's sort of come out of nowhere.